let's move on, Mark, to you. And the situation with tariffs and Trump, and well, the Bank of England has been making some comments about this.
Indeed, yeah. Andrew Bailey, the governor of the Bank of England. A lot of things happened on the 3rd of June. By the way, there was the Bank of England monetary policy report to a parliamentary committee in the UK that day, and around that same time, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development issued a report. Anyway, Andrew Bailey had a number of things to say. What's interesting is that he's not the only one saying that whatever the discomfort and disruption that Trump's tariffs and trade policies may be playing, whatever the pros and cons may be, there is a disruption in the post-World War II rules-based world order that was created to a large extent at Bretton Woods, as we know, that created the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the GATT that became the WTO. So that is the globalist one world order system that a lot of the globalists, including Mr. Bailey, are worried about. Now, we have some quotes from him taken from his testimony. The overall picture on trade now, I'm afraid, he said, is one where the rules-based system is sort of dead. A rather dramatic statement. He continued, that has very serious consequences for the global economy. So there's a lot of worry here that that system that was so carefully put into place after World War II is beginning to seriously erode. And again, that is the globalist system that many analysts in the alternative media have been very critical of over the recent decades. Anyway, he also had this to say: the system, the post-World War II rules-based multilateral trade system based on GATT WTO, has now really been blown up to a considerable degree by all of this. Repeating that, has now been really blown up to a considerable degree by all of this. Blown up are pretty dramatic words. Maybe he's engaging in a little hyperbole just to dramatize his points, but it's all very interesting. He gave some other sundry remarks to the committee on interest rates that are rather dry. We could maybe look at those another time. It's kind of like listening to the Federal Reserve testimony to Congress. It is a cure for insomnia. But Mr. Bailey went on and had one more thing to say to kind of round out his comments that focused, those comments that focused on trade and tariffs and Trump. Not all of it was about that, of course, but he said, we can't say the U.S. administration is just wrong-headed. There are things that have gone on in this whole trade picture, which I think do point to the stress that that system has been under. And he did acknowledge that the rules-based system has a number of flaws. He pledged to fix those flaws. He doesn't want to abandon the system. No good globalist would want to do that. He said also, we have to come back to the international table. Yes, the system has problems. If we abandon it, however, we'll be living in a much more difficult world in his point of view. So those are the core things that he had to say, gentlemen. The committee, of course, asked him a lot of pretty good questions. It's a rather long thing. We'll have the links to anyone that wants to watch the whole interview. We'll have the links in the show notes. Now, as I mentioned, the OECD brought out right around the same time its economic outlook. It's a very long tome, printed page-wise. It's over 200 pages. So I relied mostly on a basic summary of it. And that summary, I believe, is reflected in the next slide. This is the headline to the summary: Global Economic Outlook Shifts as Trade Policy Uncertainty Weakens Growth, also on the 3rd of June from the OECD. And among other things, I scribbled down some things here. The outlook projects global growth slowing, that's global growth, from 3.3% going on, starting from last year as a baseline, to 2.9% in both this year, 2025, and next year. The slowdown is expected to be the most concentrated in the U.S., Canada, Mexico, and China. And then it went on to say that GDP growth in the U.S. is projected to decline from 2.8% to 1.6%, and then another 1.5% decline in 2026. I don't know how realistic those figures are. I tend to doubt them a little bit on that one. It went on to say, the OECD summary of its large report, that governments need to engage with each other to address any issues in the global trading system positively and constructively through dialogue, keeping markets open, and preserving what they call the economic benefits of the rules-based global trade for competition, innovation, productivity, etc. And this OECD outlook goes on to say it highlights a range of risks, that is, starting with the concern that further trade fragmentation, as they call it, including new tariff hikes and retaliatory actions, could intensify the growth slowdown and trigger significant disruptions in the global supply chain. Of course, the length of the supply chains under the globalist system that has been set up, the very idea, the very structure that is of them and how long they are makes them inherently vulnerable. We found that out during the COVIDocracy, that the longer the supply chains and the more complex everything is, it works in a lot of ways, but that also makes it highly vulnerable. So Trump may be thinking that a more nationalistic approach where you bring more manufacturing home, if tariffs are used correctly, that is, would shorten supply chains and over time raise national income, more jobs, and lower the vulnerability of the overall system. But of course, it takes a lot of effort and a bumpy road to get there. But anyway, I also noted, and I just found this last night, there's an article on the UK Column website, Tariffs, Trade or Structural Change. And this is very, very well done. I read through most of it, and it really gives a good balanced view of the pros and cons of the current trade policy of the US and across the world, taking a look at tariffs. It does make the important note that oftentimes the world system, the trade system, has been seen as sort of a economic religion of sorts, that you need a lot of faith to believe in it for it to work, and that national economies have been sacrificed at the altar of the globalist free trade system. That's reflected in this article. That's a point of view I've often heard looking at this issue over the years. But at any rate, the OECD and the governor of the Bank of England do make some salient points. But we have to look at whether Trump's policies will erode a global system that many of us have been critical of, and maybe point us in a different direction and a better one eventually. And I'm not wearing rose-colored glasses when I say this. Or they may be more correct than I realize, and perhaps Trump is doing the right thing in the wrong way. There's a lot you could unpack in such complex trade systems. Again, the OECD report's over 200 pages. I'll probably look into it more in a couple of weeks as I read through it more. But those are the key highlights right now as Bilderberg approaches and the G7 approaches in the middle of the month.
Okay, we'll come on to that in a second. Thank you very much, Mark. Now, if you like what the UK Column does, you'd like to support us, please do consider it. You can make a donation on the support page. You could join as a UK Column member. And of course, if you join as a member, the various membership levels, you get access to UK Column News Extra and other members-only content. You could pick something up at the UK Column shop. And if you would like to get some supplements from clivetoccarl.com, if you use the link on this page, we do get a small commission for that, although it doesn't cost you any more to do that. If you can't support us financially, then please do at least support us by sharing our content. And there are share links provided on the various articles, blogs, and videos and so on the UK Column website. Tonight at 7 p.m., Charles and I are speaking to Jerm for the weekly banter. Join us at 7 p.m. for that. And yesterday's interview with Vicky Baggett of the World Library Association is on the website now as an on-demand version. Now, a date for your diary then. Please join us on Saturday, the 18th of October this year in New York for the next UK Column on Location event. We are not yet certain exactly who the speakers are going to be, but we're just giving you a heads up that this is going to be the date and the location in the country. So anybody that was sad that they had to travel halfway across the country to get to Cheltenham or last year to Bristol, we are heading north, and we hope to see you there. And it's going to be a fun day, and we'll have more details in next week and in the following weeks.
Breaching the Red Wall.
Breaching the Red Wall, yes, indeed. A reminder of the Sounds Beautiful Festival, which we will be attending June the 26th and 29th in Wimborne and Dorset. Now, a bit of an announcement on this, because we were running a competition for 2 free tickets to that. Well, it turned out that the person who won that competition wasn't able to go after all. And so we're actually rerunning the competition at the moment. If you'd like to take part in that, head over to the UK Column Extracts Facebook page, and the instructions for entering that are there. Next, Peaceful Assembly for Medical Freedom. This is in Dublin at Kingram House, and Dr. Anne McCluskey is going to be speaking there amongst a bunch of other fantastic speakers. That's Tuesday, the 10th of June at 1 p.m. If you could possibly get to that, do so. And also to remind you that the Thetford Truth and Freedom Beer Festival is taking place July 18th to 19th in the Angel Inn in Larling, and that is going to have Diane Rasmussen McCaddy and Sandy Adams speaking at it. So get along to that if you possibly can. Okay, let's move on then to